Okay, good evening everyone, live from Cape Town, South Africa. AD will be speaking tonight. We'll just wait till our friends from all around the world come on. Good evening or good morning, wherever you are. Hope you've had a happy and serene and a sober day. Okay, good evening. We'll just wait for a minute or so, and then AD, a young man, will come and share his testimony here. Hi Sharon. Will come and share his testimony of his experience, his hope, and he's a young man that has had major battles, but he will tell you about it. But he's coming through by the grace of God. And when we look at that and we see young people coming through, and us who've been fortunate and lucky and blessed to have a couple of more days sobriety, in carrying the message all the time helps us stay sober, and it helps the person who's receiving the message one day to go out there and carry the message. Okay, I just want to again just say this is not advertising at all. This is completely free. Before I hand over to AD, every Friday we run for the last 5 years a RAEL Orange Friday, where we ask people to put something orange on to help us and all of us to remove the stigma around addiction. It's called RAEL Orange Friday Journal on Facebook, and the pamphlet kind of looks like that. And there's no money involved. No one makes money. No one spends money. And we just want to highlight to remove the stigma that we're not bad people, we're sick people, and to remove the discrimination. We need people to realize that we are in a pandemic of addiction, and we need everyone to realize that, hey, hold it, we're not lepers on the street. We are normal people, from CEOs of companies who sweeps the floor. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce AD. He's going to come and tell you his story, and then and close off the meeting. If we can just open the meeting with a serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Okay, so here's AD, and God bless you, and hope you will get something out of it, and mainly parents. Hi, Michelle. And mainly parents, because a lot of part of RAEL is about the parents.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Adrian. I am a recovering addict at the RAEL farm and the rehabilitation over here. I'd like to thank Mr. Anthony Hall for this opportunity to come on live to share my story. I'd like to thank everybody else that's watching as well, and supporting as well in this time. And firstly, opening up the meeting with a serenity prayer. I do believe that without God, there's no other way that you can recover. And I'm just going to share you a story of a bit of my testimony of my life, what I've been through because of drugs and alcohol. I started at a very young age when I picked up. I was about 10 years old when I picked up on my first drug. My mother and my father at that time were divorced. My father was an alcoholic. He died an alcoholic. So I had the example or the thing that I shouldn't do at a young age that I saw from my dad's side as well. And growing up at that young age while I was using, I saw other addicts also using and other people also using, but I always classified myself, I would never end up on the streets. I would never end up in prison. I would never end up lying, stealing, you know, drug dealing, getting involved with all the things that drugs and alcohol takes us through. And as I grew up while I was using, the more older I got, the more I started using. The more I started manipulating things to go my way, the more I started stealing to support my addiction, and the more I started lying as well, lying to myself, lying to others, and my whole life became a lie at a very young age. And you know, with a single parent as a mother that still supports me till this day, um, it was tough on her. It was because I have an older sister that's still out there on the streets. She's a heroin addict that's been using for over 20 years. So I had another example in front of me. But yet, as growing up, I told myself I would never end up, like I said, just go with me. I'll never end up on the streets. I'll never end up in prison. I'll never end up lying. I'll never end up stealing. You know, because I suffer from a disease that tells me that I don't have a problem, that I'm okay, that I'm fine, you know. And in that time of me telling myself that, the more I was powerless, the more I didn't admit that I needed the help. I went to my first rehabilitation when I was about 20 years old. I don't ram down any rehabilitation, I don't ram down any place or anything. But as I was going to that place, it was just a joke for me. I found myself that the first time I went to a rehabilitation, I thought they're gonna teach me stuff on how to use drugs successfully. And I had to find out the hard way about that, because playing with my life at that young age, I thought to myself, you know, after rehab, everything will be fine, everything will be okay again. Getting the key back home, you know, getting mommy's trust back again, doing the right thing, saying the right things all the time. But that just brought me further down and deeper into my addiction as I was doing it. People speak about in the addiction and in the alcohol usage of how they lost everything, how they lost their loved ones, how they lost their jobs, how they lost their family. I don't want to speak about that. I'm not talking about that. I'm speaking about how I gave everything away because of drugs and alcohol. I gave it away. It was all there for me. Opportunity to go and study, had a good job, matriculated at a very good standard rate as well. Because through my using still, I was still functioning properly. And that's why I told myself, I'm not an addict. I won't be classified as a bad person. I won't be classified living on the streets, because I had to find out the hard way that social acceptability does not equal recovery. And I never knew that. And you know, while I was before I came to RAEL, let me jump off to the. I'm not gonna tell you everything, but before I came to RAEL, the first time, I started getting involved with gangsterism, and I started drug dealing. It was so bad and deep into it that what I was doing was killing myself, but not only myself, the people around me as well, such as my mother, such as my ex-girlfriend, the mother of my child, such as my family, my aunts, my cousins, stealing from them, losing their trust, breaking down everything just to get my way. And at that time, before I came straight to the point, you know, it took me so far that I held my own mother hostage. Now, holding hostage can mean many things, but I'm going to speak of the physical part of holding my mother hostage, where I had her at knife point prepared to kill her for my next fix. And I was prepared to kill her because I was under the influence of drugs and alcohol. And once you are under the influence of that, you feel that you're invincible. You don't care about the next person. You don't worry about who you harm. You don't care about what the next person is doing. Back down to me, and all me, the selfish part of recovery. And anything that stands in the way or stood in my way of drugs, of my next fix, I destroy. I push it out of my way. And even if that means that it has to be my own mother, I was prepared to kill her that night. That she was afraid to come into her own place, her own home that she pays for. I held her hostage. I was selling drugs out of her house. I brought gangsters into my mother's home. And I put my mother's life at risk. My mother of my child pushed me completely out of her life because she has a child to protect. and she opened up a case against me. She took me to court. I held resentment towards her because of that. So badly that I held resentment towards her that I was planning to kill her because she didn't want me to see my son. And you know, being under the influence, you start telling yourself that you play the blame game because it was everybody else but not me. Everybody else's fault but not Adrian. I could never take responsibility for something that I did wrong. And when I learned telling a lie at a young age and I saw I got away with it, that's how my lies also progressed as my disease progressed as well. And the more addicted I got to drugs, I thought I only had a problem with one drug until I found myself in a situation where drugs and alcohol came around and there was never a time that I say no. Never time that I say no to any drug, anything that comes my way, anything that's gonna put my mood and mind altering substance that was there in front of me. I never said no to it. I picked it up. And that's where I come into the point where I could never get enough of it as well. I always wanted more. More money, more women, more drugs, more alcohol. And the more I got, the more I wanted. And to a point where to support that habit meant that I had to harm people, whether I was killing them their feelings, whether I was robbing people, whether I was breaking into houses to feed my addiction, to the point, like I said, where I held my own mother hostage at knife point for my next fix. It goes much more deeper than that because, you know, with this drugs and alcohol addiction that I suffer from, I don't care, like I said, who I harm. I found to the point where I found myself using with my own sister as well. And my sister is still out there. She's still addicted to it. And to the point where we were living together on the streets. You know, and us living together on the streets, there was a way that we had to support our habit. That I abused physically, emotionally, and mentally my sister for her to go sell her own body to make money. And if she never did that, I would abuse her physically, mentally. I didn't care who I harmed. I didn't worry about what people think about me. I always thought I was invincible. I always thought that I was the main man, you know, in everything. And when I just before I came to Mr. Anthony's whole farm here at RAEL, something deep inside of me knew that what I'm busy with is not the right thing. But at the same point as well, I found myself, I couldn't stop anymore over this compulsion, over this obsession that I had with drugs and alcohol. I couldn't stop on my own because I was my own God. I was running on self-will completely that led me to make decisions based on ego, lust, manipulation, and false pride. And all those decisions doesn't involve alcohol, drugs, or alcohol. And thinking and obsession that I had. And that's what led me to go and pick up, you know, to numb that emotion, to numb those feelings, to feel like the main guy, to feel that I can use or do more things than what the next person could. Because I was the main actor in my movie, I was the director in my movie, I was the stunt man in my own movie as well. I was the main actor, you know, like I said. And my mother contacted Mr. Anthony Hall. My mother has been speaking to him for a very long time about my sister and about myself. And anything else for me anymore, you know. She didn't know who to turn to, what to do anymore. She needed help. But the only way she could help me at the same time if I wanted the help from myself as well. And one of my rock bottoms was that stood out for me. I mentioned two, which was my sister and my mother that I held hostage. I found myself sitting in a place where they were using drugs and alcohol around me. But I didn't want to get up anymore. I just lay there and I felt like I wanted to die. I didn't want to live anymore. I wanted to stop so badly, but I couldn't. I couldn't stop on my own. I didn't know how to live sober. I didn't know who to turn to, because after 3 weeks of attending a meeting when I'm clean, or not clean, when I'm dry, when I tried to get sober before I came here, after 3 weeks I would be telling the people how I want to be helped. But in my first day or in my first week, I'm so desperate for help. I'm willing to do anything, saying this is what I'm going to do, saying this is what I need to do, saying I'll do anything. But after 3 weeks, getting a bit of dry days behind my name, I was again telling the people that was around me how I wanted to be helped, what I need in my life. And that's when self-will again kicked in from my side. False pride kicked in as well from my side again. That led me back to drugs and alcohol again. And it always ended up back to drugs and alcohol. And I always ended up blaming other people, blaming the meetings, blaming the help that I was getting, blaming my mother. That you know, she was a single parent, couldn't provide for me like other parents could, but my mother was doing the best that she could at the time, you know, and she was providing for me. She was a good mother. She still is a good mother. She still supports me till this day, but she doesn't tolerate any nonsense from my side anymore, because her foot was put down, and because of her foot that was put down for opening up a case to get me, that led me and pushed me to save my life, because there was two choices that I had before I came to RAEL, was either to go to prison or to come for help. So my back was against the wall, you know. And there was two decisions that I could have made in that time before I came to RAEL. It's either I go to prison, step further into my addiction, step further into gangsterism, step further into killing myself, step further into killing everybody around me, or I could come to a place, give it a chance, give myself a chance, give the people like Mr. Anthony Hall, like Auntie Karen Hall, like the sober living here, Graham, like Leroy, like Richard that was here, like Leon that was here, like everybody that was here, give this place a chance, give this program a chance, and see what it do for me. And when I came in, my expectations of it was so high that it was unrealistic, that I thought, you know what, I can only be a month here at this place, and then I will be fine and alright, and I can go back home and be a good father to my son, be a good son to my mother, be a good brother to my sister, be a good family member to my families, you know. And after a month of coming in here, I realized, no man, I've been using drugs for over 17 years. Over 17 years, started at the age of 10 years old. 1 month is not going to solve this problem. Definitely not going to solve this problem. In fact, this is a lifelong program that I have to work and walk. The moment I stop doing or working my program, that's when the relapse. That's the moment I start working on my relapse already. That's the moment I start working on my relapse. And on my experience of being on the farm when I came here the first time, I worked the program to the best of my ability. I was sponsored to do 3 months first. And while in my 3rd month, I was pushing so hard and doing so okay. But remember, when I came in here, I had a problem with authority. I had a problem with with correction. I didn't want to listen. I had a listening problem, because at a young age I never listened to my mother. If I had to, because she told me that drugs and alcohol was already wrong, I still went down that road. But it was installed in me how discipline and respect this program runs on. How discipline Mr. Anthony's whole farm is run on. How disciplined the people were around me as well. And what I saw this program did for them. Part of me wanted that, because I saw the light and I saw hope. I thought to myself, no man, I've been living on false thing and false pride for a very long time. Maybe there is something here that is going to help me on this farm. Maybe this program does work, you know. And I started getting myself into the routines, doing the simple things that were on the program. Suggested things. At the time, things were told to me that I didn't want to hear. You know, I never wanted to hear. I never accepted correction. I always had an answer for everything. Always had an answer for everything. And until I started accepting correction and keeping quiet, it actually saved my life in the long run. It actually gave me a taste of a better life than what I never knew about. You know, because I never thought that there was a better life than drugs and alcohol. Like I said, I didn't want to do anything for myself anymore. I gave up on myself completely, because I've been rehab in, rehab out. Meetings. I've went to a lot of AA meetings as well. Not too much, because at the Cape Town, there's a lot of inner meetings mostly, but I always find myself steering away from the meeting as soon as things went well, things went good again. And then I felt that I don't need the meetings anymore. Then I felt I don't need God anymore in my life. I can do this on my own. And that's when self-will once again kicks in from my side and becoming self-centered and doing things for myself again. And the 5 pillars of recovery speaks about it completely, which was God. When I came here to RAEL, the devotions that we had here on this farm, the praise and worship that is on the farm, the churches that we attended, I had a spirit of rebellion that was within me, and those chains were broken completely because of the people that prayed around me, because of the support that was around me on this farm, because I've never believed that God would want to save someone like me. But after I saw the results of what he's doing and how he's working in other people's lives, I surrendered to God. I surrendered to the program, and automatically I surrendered to God, because I found that working the program was the spiritual principles that led me closer to God, led me closer to reconcile my relationship with Him. And when I did that, when I reconciled that relationship with God, things started going right for me while I was on the farm. Family started coming around to come and visit. I started seeing my son again. I started, the simple things that I lost, that I gave away because of drugs and alcohol, because I chose drugs and alcohol. Those things started coming back. I started to recover all those things again. And when those things came back into my life, I couldn't believe it, because the next right thing just followed, because I was doing the next right thing. It was too much that the floodgates opened upon my life, that I got a job here, that I managed to get my driver's license, my code 10, my ID again, because all those things, I gave it away. I sold it because of drugs and alcohol. My self-identity, I lost because of drugs and alcohol. I didn't know who I was because I wore a mask for so long of my life. I was too afraid to let people in. I was too afraid to let God in. But once I let Him in, automatically people started coming into my life, and I didn't understand why there was a beam around me that people. I didn't understand what's happening to me. Why is things going so right? I wasn't used to things going so right. I wasn't used to being blessed. I wasn't used to the floodgates opening on my life, and it came very fast, and I was grateful for it. I got the taste of it. I saw my family again. I saw my son again. And while I was on the farm, I got a job here. I got empowered with a job that empowered myself to empower the next person also that came into the farm, that never had hope, that was broken like me. They might not have went down the same road that I went, to the point where I was living on the streets, to the point where I held my mother hostage at knife point, to the point where I was robbing people in wheelchairs, to the point where I was robbing anybody, any person, whether it be a woman, a boy, it doesn't matter. They might not have done the things that I done, but the worst thing that could have happened, I believe, for any drug and alcohol addict, is that our spiritual connection, the inside, the rotting of the inside, was completely gone, broken, hopeless, and isolated because of loneliness. It's the most crucial way someone can die. I think so. The most crucial way, alone, all to myself, And once people wanted more of me, when I worked the program, when I did the program, and I got a job here on the farm, and I got empowered to get my license, my learners, my coating, my PDP, working at a good job here in Worcester, that's in South Africa, Cape Town. Got a good job, and I worked a good job, and I gave my all, in that job that I had. But that wasn't the only job I had, because there was recovery that still had to be done. And the extra mile that I went, because it always speaks of the extra mile, when I came back from work, was the service I still gave back onto the farm, because this place saved my life. This place saved my life. God dwells on this farm, and He works through each and every person that comes on this farm. The service I started giving back on the farm without expecting anything back in return, because I had the best thing already, which was me, my life, which was my family, which was my son. I was capable of providing for them again without expecting anything back in return. And after some time being on the farm, after 17 months of being clean and sober, I tested the theory again, and I went out there. And because that's when I was working on my relapse. I spiritually relapsed and emotionally relapsed. And I went out there again and I started testing the theory. And it made me physically defenseless towards picking up again. And I relapsed. Within one day when I went back out there, I went back to visit my mother for the weekend. And I relapsed. Then I started blaming. Then the whole behavior came back again, because once you pick up all those old behavior, all the old patterns, everything creeps in again. Subtly, it started creeping in again. Then I started blaming other people. Then I started blaming my mother. Then I started blaming my ex-girlfriend. Then I started blaming Mr. Anthony Hall, the man that is saving my life. I started blaming him as well, you know. And I couldn't take responsibility after being so long clean again. Not long, but for the longest that I've been clean in my life. I couldn't accept that responsibility. I didn't want to take it that I picked up again. And then I started looking at how long I stopped, and I never started looking at the way my family again. Because after 17 months, it took me 3 weeks and I was back on the street. Took me 3 weeks and I was back on the street. 7 times worse. I fell. 7 times worse. I stole. 7 times worse. I robbed. 7 times worse. I was killing myself and my family around me. I gave it away again. Away just like that, for drugs and alcohol. And false pride kept me from coming back here. False pride didn't want me to get help, because I thought, you know what, I know this game, everything. I know the lit work. I know how to speak on meetings. I know about a lot of things. So therefore, I don't need to go back to a rehabilitation. I don't need an inpatient. I don't need a program anymore. And ultimately I told myself, I don't need God anymore. I got this under control. Self-will again. I am God. I came to believe that I was God and the people all around me was insane. That led me further down the road of destruction again. In 3 weeks, I destroyed everything that I worked so hard for, that I built up for. Back. And I tore them apart. That my sister that looked up to me, that I gave the hope to, the sister that I physically, mentally, and emotionally abused to sell her body, she couldn't understand. She looked up to me and she thought to myself, no man, this boy is now then back on the streets. He's then doing the same thing again. It broke her completely that she did. She wanted nothing to do with me because I was a light and a shining hope, but I broke that. My mother gave up on me. She put her foot, not gave up on me, she put her foot down and said she's not tolerating anything for me. And maybe that saved my life, because my mother wasn't one to put down 10% of the boundary. As soon as I picked up now, she put me out of her house again. She never tolerated my nonsense anymore. And when I was out there on the streets again, I thought to myself, because I have a bit of streets experience, and I knew how to put my hand in to feed myself. Doors for money. I knew how to. I know exactly where to go. But then, the more longer I was out there, the shorter my lifelines came. But there was one bridge that I never burnt, that God kept for me. After everything that I spoke about Mr. Anthony Hall, of how I blamed him as well because of me relapsing, he opened up his door again for me for the second time, and I came back here on the farm. And now I'm back here. And now I'm doing what I need to do to save my life. Now I got the proper support, the proper help around me. Now it's not about how long I've been clean, or what I used, or what happened in my life. Now it's about how I'm gonna better myself from this day forward. Am I gonna take this opportunity again to make my life better? Damn people down again like I used to. Because at the end of the day, for me, a jail and an institution is still an opportunity that I would pay his death. And I don't want to die a nothing. I don't want to die people speaking about me, my son having to hear, your dad died, because I have to break that chain. My father died an alcoholic. My son can't hear the same story that his dad died an addict. Because then
have I learned? What am I trying to teach my son at the end of the day? But the only way I can be a father to my son is if I work the 12 steps of the program. If I work the program to the best of my ability. I can't put anything aside. I've tried putting my son first. I've tried putting my mother first. I've tried putting a job first. I've tried putting everything else in front of me before my recovery. And I fell. I can't put this aside. The moment I push my recovery aside and slacking the foot off it, that's the moment when complacency kicks in. And complacency is the main killer of each and every addict. Complacency, laziness, one of the 7 deadly sins, the pride that also comes in, the lust that comes in, and I have to work this program to arrest this disease as well, to put it under control, to be one step ahead of it, because it's still here at the back of my mind. It creeps in very subtly as well. So I have to constantly remind myself never to forget where I come from, never to forget how desperate, how broken I was, because the physical things, the tangible evidence that was around me, maybe when I came back the second time, wasn't enough for me to keep me sober. Like I said, that spiritual inside of me, what I was filling it with was filth. And now that I'm cleaning that filth out, doing the step work, it's like the people that work cleaning the rice. When they clean the rice, that dirt that's falling down at the bottom, that is what the program does for me. That is what God ultimately is busy doing for me now, and doing for every recovering addict that is out there and alcoholic, and still will continue to do it. All you need to do is to accept the things that you cannot change and to surrender each and every day. And sometimes it's difficult to do those things. Sometimes you don't want to do those things. But it's found that when I found for myself personally, when I done that, it made my life much more easier. It made me and allowed me to be content with whatever I have. And that's why we work at Just for Today program. That is why we have to take it one step at a time in recovery. Not taking on too much. Not taking on things that you cannot control, because I had to learn when I came back the second time, the pride I had to put back into my pocket and take on the small responsibility in life to take on the big things. And one of the main responsibilities is to maintain my sobriety each and every time. Anything in front of that, I lose completely. Because I stood at a turning point already. And I found that half measures availed me nothing at all. Whether it was half measures in recovery, whether it was half measures on school, whether it was half measures in anything that I was studying, trying to get my life right, it availed me nothing. That turning point was my turning point as well, of how I wanted things to run. And I lost, or I gave it away completely, not lost. I gave it away completely for drugs and alcohol. And sharing my hope now with everybody that is watching out there, with the parents as well. I want to tell and give the parents a message that yes, you don't want to give up on your son or daughter that's out there. Yes, what parent would put them out on the street? Yes, what parent would put their child in prison? But also, a parent shouldn't drop their boundaries. Parents should show tough love towards their children, because remember, you're not dealing with your child anymore. My mother wasn't dealing with a son anymore. She was dealing with something much more bigger than a son, that was under the influence of something that was prepared to take her life. And when my mother saw that she was afraid to come into her own home, she thought to herself, she has to reach out for help and have to put her foot down. And that saved my life. Didn't tolerate my nonsense anymore. My mother didn't believe my lies and manipulation that I had upon her. I taught my mother the best way of how I should be treated when I start picking up, self-will kicks in again. That she put me on my place very quickly, very nicely, and very lovingly as well. So to the parents out there, if your child is manipulating you, if he's lying to you, if he's stealing from you, if he's hurting you, yes, I understand. You're a parent, you don't wanna put your child in prison, but hey, what option do you have? Do you want to wake up one evening where you open up your eyes and your son is standing with a knife in front of you? Because that's what I did with my mother. That's how far I took my mother. That my mother is still afraid to even talk about it to me. I think after being 15 months clean only, that me and my mother spoke about that incident for the first time. Where in at that moment, where that spiritual awakening came in at that moment, because I didn't know how to approach my mother. I didn't know how to speak to her. And working the eighth and the ninth step, it taught me that making amends is not only for other people, but for myself also. So making amends to myself was me being in recovery, me doing the next right thing. And automatically I was making amends to my mother. Even though I never went to her and said I was sorry, in my actions I was showing her that I truly am apologizing and I am sorry about what I did. But I never said it to her, because I said so many times sorry to my mother that eventually I did it again after that. You know, and my mother spoke to me about it for the first time. She was afraid, she didn't know how to approach it. She's still traumatized about that incident. But she came to realize that she wasn't dealing with her son anymore. She was dealing with something much more bigger than her son. Something that took over her son. And that's why she doesn't drop the boundaries anymore. So her not dropping the boundaries, I want to say thank you to that. I want to say thank you to Mr. Anthony, who also, when I came into the program, when I came in the second time as well, when I'm here on the farm, that he doesn't drop his boundaries. Because why? It's principle before personalities. And that ends up saving your life if you look at the bigger picture. It's not about special treatment. It's not about where you come from, what you've done, how much you use, who you use with. It's about what you want to do about your problem now. What you're going to do about the help that you're going to get now. And that's how God intervened into my life again. And that's when I came back to the program, I got back into the step work. I got back onto step one, doing it thoroughly and properly, admitting that I was powerless over my addiction. My life had become unmanageable. My life can still become unmanageable without me even speaking up, because once self-will still kicks in, I make decisions that is based on manipulation, ego, lust, and false pride. So I have to be vigilant about this addiction and this disease that I suffer with. You know, and when I start speaking to my sponsor like Mr. Anthony, when I start opening up about things that I did in my past, even opening up about my emotions, because I was a very close person, I speak to him everything about that I struggle with. I speak to him when I have cravings. I speak to him when I struggle, when I can't get over a certain emotion. I share it with him. I don't hold it back anymore, because I have to share with my sponsor as one of the 5 pillars as well. I have to open and be honest with my sponsor, not for my sponsor, but for myself, but for me, so that he can teach me and suggest to me what he went through and how his experience was. Even people that are longer in sobriety than me, I respect. I don't have to like the person, but I can like the message that it's coming from. And when it came to being of service as well, I could never do anything for people without expecting something back in return. Today, it's a different story. That was one of my spiritual awakenings as well. To be of service, to step out of self, to help other people without expecting anything in return back. I couldn't do that. I couldn't even do it for my own mother or my son. There was always a manipulation, always a lie behind something that I did for him. But today it's differently. Today people can look at me and say, hey, here's Adrian, young. The other day, we couldn't walk past Adrian. We couldn't look at Adrian because we had to look at where our bags were. We had to look at what do we have on me. Where did we put the money? We had to hide things away from. My mother had to put locks on the doors, change her locks on the doors because of me. That's how far I held my mother hostage. That's how far this disease took me. It's not a joke. It's not a game that we are playing with. And I share this message of hope to the parents, because I want to encourage them and I want to tell them to put their foot down with their kids. You see what this disease is doing to us. At a very young age, I started as well, because we're exposed to a lot of things at a very young age. It cannot be tolerated anymore. That's why we're losing kids at a very young age from the area that I come from the area that I grew up in. And a lot of kids are falling into the trap of addiction. A lot of small kids of falling, and I don't want to see my son go down that way. I have to be the example. I have to work this program. I have to be in recovery in order for me to be a good father and a good example to him, a good example to my family. But most importantly, to carry the message to the still suffering addict that is out there, to show them that there is still hope, to show them that we do recover, that we do get well, that we do get our family back. But not on our time, all on God's time. It's things come back to you in your life. And ultimately, once you start bringing the body, the mind automatically follows. And the mind follows right now till this moment as well. My body, my mind, my soul is in this now. Now I carry the message and I tell it straight how my story was. I don't beat around the bush. I'm not ashamed anymore. I'm not afraid anymore. I don't have any fear of the unknown as well anymore. Because I work my program, and the spiritual part of my program allows me to do everything with God. I trust and I believe in God. I never did it before. Because I trusted and believed in myself, and I killed myself ultimately. But still I got the opportunity now to make things right. And I'm making the best of it, because if I don't do anything about it now, like I said, a jail and an institution is still an opportunity for me. Ultimately, I will pay the price of death. Now I have a job again. Now I have my mother by my side. Support by my side again. And it's all through me working this program. It's all through me doing the next right thing. Might be difficult sometimes. Sometimes I didn't like it, but I had to do it. Sometimes it tells you something you don't want to hear at the time, but you have to take it. You have to swallow it and take it and push through that time. And you might scheme to yourself, yo, why so hard? Why are you being so hard on me? Why are you being so tough on me? Well, you made the choice, You made the choice to go and pick up on tough things that you wanted to do. So now recovery is not for people that are weak. Recovery is not for people that are people who have any backbone to stand up, man. That this watered down recovery of people working a certain program and believing in certain things, and it doesn't work. There's only one ultimate way that 12 steps work, and it leads you closer to God. Like I said, we cannot recover without God. We cannot recover without Him, and He's always there by our side. We just have to see Him in the things that we do. We just have to see Him in the people that we are surrounded by when we step into recovery. When we step into recovery and we do the next right thing from our side as well. We have to practice these principles in all our... Not do selective recovery when we want to. Not be honest when we want to, when it suits us. We have to be honest with everything that we do. Each and every day. Rigorously honest. Because if I'm not honest or open-minded or willing in my recovery, I'm working on my relapse again. I'm heading back down to the road of destruction. And ultimately, I pay the price again of death. Killing myself slowly. Because it's the lifestyle that killed me. The lifestyle that I chose to live that was killing me. So now I'm back in recovery. Now I'm working on it. Now I have the support around me. Now I'm doing what I'm trying to do from my side. And now I got the love that I always had by my side. So everything that drugs and alcohol promised me, sobriety has given me today. And all it asks for from my side is to work this program, to be honest, to be open-minded, and to be willing at anything. I have to chew the meat, then spit out the bones. I have to work a Just for Today program. I can't think about tomorrow. I can't jeopardize and put things on my shoulders that I cannot handle anymore. We have to take it one day at a time. We have to take it one step at a time as well. And in doing those simple things, it pushes us forward. It pushes us much more closer to things. We start receiving the gifts of recovery. One of those gifts of recovery for me is my spiritual connection with God. Each and every day. Without Him, I wouldn't be waking up in the morning with the peace and the serenity I have in my heart. And I thank Him for that. I thank the people and the support that I have around me for that. Thank Him each and every day for that. That peace of waking up and there's no chaos. There's no fight inside of you anymore. There's no argument anymore. There's no, thinking where you're going to get your next fix now. It's that peace, that humility, that content that you have. That we are just relieved where you and you bail out. And all those things come in time as you work this program. But every day you have to work it. Every day you have to work this program. You can't put it down and step it aside for anything else. Otherwise, you will give it away again. You won't lose it, but you will give it away. I will give it away if I stop working. So, yeah, it's an honor to share my story and part of my story to people out there. I hope that you got something out of my message. I hope that I could help the next person that was out there. And I hope that you know, you find recovery, and it can start at any day for you. I hope that this spreads a message and gives hope to the parents that has children that are still suffering out there on the streets. You can help your child. You can help whoever it is that is out there. But you have to put your foot down and have backbone and say enough. We are drugs. We are losing too much parents to drugs and alcohol. We are losing each and every day to that. So we have to at some point, at some point you have to put your foot down and say enough is enough. And even the addict has to say that for himself as well. I can't do my recovery without me wanting to do it. Nobody else can do it for me. I have to want this more than anything. More importantly, I need this to survive. That's it. I need this. This is my survival kit. God, step work, meetings, sponsor, and service. That is my survival kit in life. So I'd just like to thank you from my side. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you to everybody out there that's overseas in America. Thank you very much. I hope that you guys got something out of what I was saying. It's a blessing to share my story. It's a testimony. And I just want to say I love everybody that was listening. And I hope that in this time, in the struggle of time, may you find God and may God be by your side. May He bless you. May He bless your family as well. Thank you for listening.
Okay. It was a great share by AD, really one that comes from deep down from the heart. And we just wish him well, and we just trust that his future will be big and his future will be strong, and that he will find everlasting sobriety one day at a time. Thank you again for listening to us from Cape Town, South Africa. We'll be back on tomorrow at the same time, same place, with a different speaker from the RAEL farm. And we can take it from, it's right up to next Sunday, and you'll hear the testimonies of people that are working on their recovery, working on their lives. And I'm hoping to get a testimony of a mother as well that will share her story of what it was like living with an addict and an alcoholic. May God bless you. May God keep you until we see each other again tomorrow evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.